Hello everybody, welcome to High Ground. My name is Tanner and today we're going to be going over the group stage of SI 2023. So after 5 grueling days of competition, we now have our bracket set up. So maybe not a ton lost for some of the teams, even if they didn't do super well. Of course, 4 teams eliminated from the event, 4 other teams sent straight to the lower bracket, and 4 teams getting a bye. So there were certainly things to be fighting over, but now the real event starts, I suppose. So let's go down the line, starting with Group A. I think the expectation for this group was something like from top to bottom: W7M, Koi, Space Station, G2, Elevate, and maybe you can switch around the last 3, but pretty much everybody had W7M first, and probably Koi second, and then G2 or Space Station next, and then Elevate or G2 last. Space Station, I think people had anywhere from 3rd to 5th, and well, what ends up happening is, I think quite a bit different. W7M in 3rd place is definitely a surprise. Probably if anybody else was going to top the group besides them, it'd be Koi, but G2 definitely overperforming as well. Space Station definitely underperforming, and then Elevate, I'd say also underperforming. A lot of people did think they were going to get grouped, but I don't think many people thought that they wouldn't take a single map. So Koi, yeah, 3 2-0s and then a single map 3 loss against G2. So they 2-0'd W7M and Space Station and Elevate. Of course, everybody 2-0'd Elevate, but also most teams 2-0'd Space Station. So, good on Koi. They definitely proved their stuff here. That missing the previous event was just a fluke, and they're looking to win another championship just like they did in Berlin. G2, I think, sort of exceeding people's expectations, although for whatever reason, people always set the bar low for them, and then they do pretty well in the group stage, but usually they fall pretty early in bracket. And well, if this last year is any indication, it'd be immediately in bracket. But it's a bigger bracket this time around, 16 teams rather than just 8 teams like at the majors. So we'll have to see. It definitely looks like perhaps the best iteration of G2 we've seen in quite a while. The loss of Citizen on paper seemed like a big loss, but maybe he just wasn't contributing to the team the way it seemed like he should be on paper, and Benja just suits the squad a lot more. But Doki's had a lot of pop-off games, and the rosters just look pretty good overall. W7M didn't falter too much. I don't think anybody really expected them to lose a series, especially 2-0. But again, if anybody was going to take them down, it'd be Koi, and that is what happened. So 2 2-0s, a 2-1, and then an 0-2 for them. Still 6-3 on maps, and still a long bracket to play through. Are they the event favorite still? It's hard to say. I think some people probably would still say they are. It's possible that any given team in the group stages was pulling their punches, especially if they got off to a good start, because if you make it to bracket on the winner side, not that much loss. Of course, if they played a little bit better, if they'd beat Koi, then they'd be getting the first round bye. But well, maybe the Koi was just a little bit more ferocious than they were ready for. Space Station definitely underperforming, especially relative to how they looked after that first match. So I was doing those tier lists, and maybe I'll do one anyways. I won't talk about it too much in this video, but I had him at B tier. I said you could maybe put him up in A tier, and that was after just their first game. Most other teams had already played 2 games. And a big reason for that, I guess I was overestimating Elevate, and I just didn't expect them to do that well, but I didn't expect them to do this poorly. I thought they were a decent team. They had good showings at their last 2 international events, but they ended up being quite the pushover squad, all things considered. So I guess I gave Space Station too much credit for their impressive win. And actually, Space Station did have the best win over Elevate of all the teams. If we look here really quickly, Elevate only took 7 rounds on Space Station, whereas they took 8 rounds against W7M. They took 12 rounds against Koi, and they took where's the last one? They took 12 rounds against G2. So the best showing out of SSG was the first one. But anyway, straight to the lower bracket for them. If this trend continues, they'll be the worst performing NA team at SI again, just like they were last year. They fell at 9th through 12th place. Every other NA team made at least top 8. So they're definitely going to have to improve quite a lot. It was a tough group, and I think maybe even tougher than people estimated. Probably, I don't know, I guess you'd say W7M, Space Station, and Elevate all underperformed, and then G2 and Koi maybe overperformed. But, if you just look at the other teams besides Space Station, that's 2 underperformers, 2 overperformers, and everybody thought it was a strong group going into it. Anyways, let's talk about Group B now. We have M&M topping the group. They are actually the only team at the event to not drop a single map, and one of only, I think, 2 teams to not drop a series, with the other one being Los One. So definitely 2 underrated teams coming into it, both M&M and Los One. We'll talk about Los One when we get to Group C. Anyways, yeah, the perfect 8-0 clean sweep from M&M, really impressive. And the stats on here aren't updated properly. The round counts and thus the round differential aren't aren't correct. They weren't, for some reason, updated past the first day. You know, everyone played, and these were their round differentials, and then Direwolves didn't play. That was their bye day. So you can't track it completely well based on this. The second seed from each group got to pick their opponent from the third seeds, and they got to pick in the order of how well they did. And Sonic's round differential at the end was actually plus 17, one better than G2, so they got to pick first. So we'll look at the bracket at the end, but do keep that in mind. Sonic's did get the first pick from all the 2 seeds picking from the third seeds. Anyways, yeah, M&M looking really, really good. We'll see if that continues in a bracket or if that was just a group stage thing. Sonic's also doing very, very well. I don't think people really expected them to lose to M&M, despite how hot M&M was. You know, they were both 2-0 or 3-0. Was that that wasn't their last games, was it? No, that was each of their third games. So they were both 2-0, looking quite good, and every other team in the group just was not good. People thought this was a pretty tough looking group with Wolves and Liquid and Sonics, with you know, M&M sort of there in the background. If you had to order the group, probably you'd say Liquid, Sonics top 2 in some order, and then Wolves, then M&M, then Direwolves. But no, things ended up looking a little bit different. But yeah, Sonics looking quite good. A little bit shaky at times, just their coordination. Maybe not absolute top notch, and that does make sense. They just brought on Citizen recently, and even Gunnar and Geo are pretty new to the squad. So at this point, it's a pretty new team. Only Rexon and Grixer being really long-standing members of the playing roster. So it should be only uphill from here, but I still think it's entirely possible they take down the event. We'll have to see. Wolves finally get their first 2 best of 3 international wins, but only good enough for third place in the group. And I guess third place is not too bad of a position to be. You still get to go straight into the upper bracket, and it came down to them versus Liquid in the last match. Winner of that got to get third place and thus the upper bracket. Loser went to the lower bracket, and Liquid ended up losing out. And that was one of the best series I think we had, and we had a lot of really good series in the group stage. But it was a 7-4 for Wolves in the first map, and then a 7-4 for Liquid in the second map, and then it went overtime, not quite max overtime, but 14 rounds. So that was a fun one to watch. Go back and watch that one if you feel like it. If you want to watch a good and exciting match, a lot was on the line for each team at the moment. At that point, it was almost like they were playing in bracket, right? Because the loser got set down to the lower bracket effectively, right? And anyways, overall, yeah, Wolves and Liquid definitely underperformed. M&M massively overperformed, and Sonics, I'd say, performed about as well as people expected. Maybe their one loss you would have thought it would have been to Wolves or Liquid, not M&M, but still, there's the one loss. And then Direwolves, another APAC team, unfortunately going 0-0-0-4, not getting a single map and getting eliminated in groups. On to Group C. Yeah, Los won, the other team to not drop a single series. They did drop 3 maps though, so they had to win it in 3 versus 3 of their opponents. And looking at the round differential, they're only +6, which is only slightly better than BDS. It's the same as Oxygen, even though their map count is much better than either of those teams. So they were cutting it quite close in a lot of the maps that they played, and their stats reflect that as well. No real impressive stats on the team. If you go on CGG, it's all hovering a little bit above or below 1.0. So a good, clean team, well, maybe not clean, but a good team effort anyways. And the results you would have expected from this group, I think most people had BDS, Oxygen, and then either Astralis or Team Los 1, and then the other one in 3rd and 4th, and then Cyclops in 5th. So really, if you just put Los 1 in 3rd or 4th here, the rest of the order was the expected one, right? BDS, then Oxygen, then Astralis, then Cyclops. So maybe some people had Oxygen taking the group over BDS, but almost everybody would have thought this would have been an easy group for BDS, myself included. But they end up going 2-2, losing to Cyclops, losing to Los 1. So some funky stuff happening. Cyclops, well, they looked good at the beginning, taking down BDS, but that ended up being their only series win. They did get a few map wins, of course. They won 2 here and they won 1 here, so 3 maps. So APAC got 3 whole maps at this entire event so they average 1 map per team. Not a great showing, but when will we ever get a good APAC showing? Maybe never. You never know. But I guess that's all to talk about here. Yeah, I mean, Los won, I think, perhaps the most underrated team coming to this event, maybe even more than M&M, but probably those two being the most underrated because they were, in most people's rankings, I think they were like 3rd or 4th or something in their group, and they both end up topping their groups, and especially in in this group, especially not close. They're 5 whole points ahead of BDS in this group, M&M 4 points ahead of Sonic. So yeah, good showing from both of them. And then finally we have Group D. M80 tops the group, but this one ended up being really close, except for a secret down here. But they actually played a lot of really close series, if we just glance at a few of them. Yeah, they got 2-0'd by Heroic, but it was around 15 in the first map, so they could have got at least 1 map against them. They went overtime all 3 times against Dark Zero, but only won 1 of them. Dark Zero's remaining the kings of OT like they were. I guess that was quite a while ago, but it was like stage 2 of 2021 or something when they played like 8 of their games in overtime and won almost all of it. Yeah, that was a crazy stage. Anyways, Dark Zero come on top after a bunch of overtime, and then Secret, I guess versus M80, not especially close, but they do go map 3 against FaZe, and well, I guess neither of the maps that they lost were close, but the one that they won. So a lot of overtime, and in the end, you know, the only non-APAC team to fall, and of course there was no APAC team in the group to take that fall. So yeah, good showing from M80. I'd say this was, I don't know if they were expected first place, but I'd say most people would have had M80 or FaZe Clan probably first, maybe Dark Zero. Nobody had Heroic doing this one, I think, and probably a lot of people, I think, said that they would get grouped over Team Secret. Team Secret had the momentum from the qualifier. They were looking pretty good. Heroic with a bunch of sort of last-minute forced roster changes for various reasons, and I guess it all came together fairly well. I mean, they only went +2 on round differential, but good enough for second place, and, well, you know, still outdoing everyone else. M80 really hogging that positive round differential, and M80, their only loss coming to Dark Zero in the last day, and Dark Zero needed that. They had to... I guess if FaZe had won 2-0 versus Secret, it wouldn't have mattered. They'd be on 9 points, and they have the tiebreaker over Dark Zero. Or, okay, well, no. So coming into the day, FaZe was on 5 points, I think, and Dark Zero was on 6 points. So I guess technically if FaZe... Yeah, okay. Dark Zero had to get as good of a performance as FaZe did, okay, is what I'm trying to say. So if FaZe got a 2-0, Dark Zero had a 2-0. If FaZe got a 2-1, then Dark Zero had to get a 2-1 or a 2-0, and that's exactly what happened. You know, they got the 2-1 win over M80, just like FaZe did over Secret in the last day. And I don't know, is there anything in particular I want to look at? I guess I just looked at all the Secret games. I think that does it, and for the groups anyways. And if I go back here, it should take me to the bracket, right? I have it right down here. Yeah, so this ended up being the bracket. So as I alluded to earlier, all of the second seeds got to pick their opponent from all of the third seeds in order of how well the second seeds performed. So Sonics picked Dark Zero, and then G2 picked Wolves, and then Heroic picked Oxygen, and then BDS picked W7M. And then they'll advance to fight these teams. The loser of each of these matchups will fight these teams, and I don't think it's totally clear which opponent they'll fall down to face. I don't know if the loser of Heroic Oxygen actually faces Space Station, or if it's like reversed or something. Sometimes some weird stuff happens, like it's not represented accurately by just looking at it. So we'll have to see. Anyways, I think that does it. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, corrections, any of that stuff, feel free to leave them below. A like and a comment, or a like and a subscription would be appreciated. And with all of that being said, catch you guys next time.